Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at another Armored Core 6 30-minute missions kit. This is the 5th release on this Brute's custom wrecker known as Milktooth. As far as these 30-minute missions AC6 kits go, this one has the most over-the-top and ridiculous set of weapons, including the double chainsaw. Now personally I have to admit, besides the Ibis, this was the only AC in the entire game that gave me any trouble. Baltius, no problem. I don't know what it was with this particular AC. Anyway, this is a very nice kit. And if you do want one of your own, I got mine through those awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan, and the link will be down there in the description. Now let's check it out. So jumping straight on into the aesthetics, and there is the 30-minute missions Milktooth just out of the box, snapped together, nothing else done. Now personally, this isn't a way I would recommend building this kit. There's tons of hidden detail on this that is just begging to be brought out. There's panel lines everywhere, tiny little intricate mechanical details all over the place. And when it comes to Armored Core kits, a bit of battle damage, some scrapes, scratches, dings and dents really finishes off the full package. For example, what I would have done with the first release, or should I say second release, which was Nightfall. So right now I'm just trying to get through some of the backlog a little bit, so that's why this kit sadly didn't get a little bit of extra effort. Now, this one, out of a lot of them, I really feel does need it. There's a lot of bright colors on here. As you can see, there's two shades of yellow. That's the standard yellow, a kind of greenish yellow. We've got the nice subtle browny color, as well as some green on here as well, but it just doesn't look grimy and gritty enough to be Milktooth. So that's why I say get this lined, inked, battle damaged, dirtied and top coated, and it will look spectacular, but still out of box looking really good. Anyway, as for what this does look like out of the box, just built as it is, without a doubt one of the most unique looking heads from this line so far. It's basically just a bit of a camera or something with a bit of a grill in front of it. Now there is meant to be some lights in the sensors on that right there, so this is something you're going to have to paint in yourself, just like we saw with the rest of the line. Just like the overall look of the wrecker, the body is incredibly industrial looking, with a lot of pistons molded in there, what look like radiators, grills, etc. And again, the part separation and the detailing is incredible. The arm continues on that industrial sort of feel, almost giving a kind of crane sort of vibe as opposed to your usual kind of arm. The hands on here are not hands, they're just simple manipulators, almost like a little bit of a claw. The legs continue on the industrial look. We do have a bunch of pistons and stuff. These sort of work, not crazy work, but they do actually move in and out when the legs are bent, which is pretty cool. Again, they could really do with some detailing up to look a little bit more accurate and a little bit more fancy, but overall very nice design. Even just a bit of a wash and a quick dry brush of battle damage would make this look incredible. When it comes to the model kit sins, aka the things that don't really look too nice in a model kit, like seam lines, knobs, mold lines, all of that, there's nothing too critical on here. You'll find some aspects, but anything like this nasty little nub right here is just from me building this pretty quickly. There is some here and there with some mold lines that you may need to clean up if you want this to be absolutely perfect. There are some seam lines here and there, like on the top of the head, up the front of the legs, and in some areas like the front of the arms, which you may want to close up just to make it look perfect, but overall just as impressive as we've seen so far with this small scale mecha line. Anyway, now jumping into the full 360-degree spin as usual, so you can see every little bit of detail for yourself in case I missed something while taking a look around on it. Overall, this does look nice. Depending on how you light it is really how nice it does look. If you light it from the sides, you're going to bring out all of those nice little details all over the place, but the best thing to do is actually get some ink or something into those to bring out all of that detail. This has some tiny pieces. They're just asking for that little bit of paint to make them pop a little bit more. Again, just a wash or something like that will bring out all of the detail on it, and these kits really do shine when you do get some battle damage onto them. They don't even really take that much. They're designed as a fantastic foundation that just look insanely nice, and all you have to do is just finish them off that little bit. Again, some lines, battle damage, grit, wear and tear will make it look astounding. Jumping now into a bit of a size comparison, there it is with some previously released ACs from the 30-minute missions line. Nightfall on the left, Orbiter on the right, and speaking of Orbiter, I do really hope we get a grey variant like this of every release that they've released so far, because this right here, in grey, would look pretty cool. Next up there's Steel Haze, Liger Tail, Melander, jumping into some Gunpla, there's the high-grade RX-78-2, Hyzak, Gundam Barbatos, Psycho Doga, and the high-grade G-Quacks. So jump now into the accessories, and the Milk Tooth comes with a literal massive armory. Now this is some insane accessories right here. What we get in here is two versions of the Double Trouble, that is the stored away version, and the deployed version, which is absolutely huge. On top of that, we've got the Bad Cook Flamethrower, and when it comes to the shoulder weapons, we've got a split missile unit, as well as the Morley. On top of that, finally, we do have some decals in here as well, which of course are Honest Brutes logo. So weapons-wise, first off in here is the Bad Cook. Now I will mention, with the amount of plastic in the weapons in this kit, when you're actually finished building the mech or the AC itself, you're only halfway through the kit, literally. That is not an exaggeration. The plastic runners that do make up the weapons make up half the kit. There's so much going on. Not only are these weapons very, very big, they're also ridiculously detailed, made out of tiny, tiny little parts. Well, not tiny parts, but a whole lot of parts. The detail is very, very small. Again, like I would have mentioned in my Nightfall video, all you have to do is kind of get some panel lining markers. You can completely goob these up with black, and then just use a Q-tip or a cotton bud to just wipe off the excess, and that will bring out all the detail beautifully. They still look very, very nice just straight out the box like this. Again, the detailing is absolutely insane, but to bring that out, a little bit of ink goes a long way. So again, the Bad Cook attached into the hand is just the usual kind of Bandai way. The hand just separates in half like two slices of bread that make up a sandwich. This is the ham for the sandwich. You just throw it on in there. It holds on quite well even without the back attached on. Pop on the back and just slide it into position, and there you go. This looks insanely nice. This kit's weapons are off the charts huge. And speaking of huge, next up right here is the Double Trouble, and this is absolutely massive. Even in its stored state, this is the biggest melee weapon we've seen from this particular line of model kits. This right here, as its name suggests, Double Trouble is a double chainsaw. There is a lot of snipping out and a lot of individual parts, so that will take a little bit of time to clean up, and I do recommend detailing it up because it is just all in grey and could do with a little bit of low lighting. Anyway, there's the two, or should I say almost four blades of the Double Trouble, and this is the stored version. And speaking of which, this right here is the deployed version, so it's pretty much exactly the same and shares half the parts on a duplicated runner as this right here. So let's get these oriented together. There you go. There is the closed up one, there is the open one. So as you can see, just the chainsaw there has swung out. So I guess they thought that actually having a whole second one in here is better than, you know, having a bit of an actual pivoting mechanism to it. I suppose on this side it has changed quite a bit. You can see the orientation of this little section here has changed. This has dropped down like so. So when it deploys, I guess there's a little bit more than just a swinging out double blade. This is insane looking. Having two though, and these are all the parts. They don't share a part that makes, well, the other one unusable. So that does mean you can have one on this kit like the deployed one and use this on a custom if you wanted to. Anyway, when it comes to attaching this on, just like all of the kits, and these are compatible with the other kits of course, we do have a attachment point on the left arm only. We've got a little bit of a peg on this, and that just attaches on in just like so. Now that right there is an absolutely insane sized and insane weapon. So now moving on to the right back weapon, and it's this split missile system. Now I was wondering myself if this could be built as left or right, but by the looks of things, even though the central aspect is symmetrical, and I will mention while I'm seeing it right there are some noticeable seam lines in these, it does look like you can't actually build this as the other side. Hold on, if I pop that off, we've got a peg. Let's remove that from there. Yeah, the design of both sides of those rails aren't swappable, so it does mean it is only a right back weapon only. There is no option to build it as a left-hand version. This doesn't really do a whole lot. We've got a bit of a pivot up top, we've got the pivot on the arm that attaches onto the back, and we do have an attachment point there that can pivot as well, but that is it. No other moving parts. Nothing opens up or shows the missiles. Attaching this on is the same as we would have seen with the other armored core kits. That's you just pop this in here. It does have a little bit of a section that allows it to lock where you want it to stay, which is right there. And again, it can pivot to the front or down out of the way, just like so. So next up in here, we've got the other shoulder weapon, which is the Morley. So once again, extremely nicely designed. A whole bunch of parts actually make this up, and it is super, super detailed, including the shield on the side. Now, sadly, it doesn't have the really cool firing mechanism where when it actually fires, the shield moves back, or should I say moves kind of forward. It's just kind of set in position as a nice little display piece. Again, very nicely designed, great detail, could do with a little bit of a inking up, but no moving parts. Well, besides the little hinge down here. Again, getting this attached on is exactly the same as what we would have seen. So you just stick the peg into the hole, just like so, up on the shoulder. Rotate this till it actually finds its home position, and there you go. It can rotate up over the shoulder like so for firing. It again, it doesn't have the firing mechanism, and it can move back out of the way. So there we go. There is the 30-minute missions, Milktooth in a little bit of a pose with all of its equipment attached on, and this is absolutely crazy. We've got an insane amount of weapons in here: chainsaw, flamethrower, bazooka, split missile launcher. This thing has a whole ton of armament. As of right now, none of these weapons are sold separately, so if you want these absolutely savage weapons, you will have to get this kit right here, and this is quite the loadout. Again, a lot of stuff in here. Just kind of for the sake of a funny comparison, there's the 30-minute missions Melander, which came out on the exact same day, and that is all the equipment it came with. That right there. Now, as far as I can see with this is a grey version like we would have seen with the Orbital, which I really hope they'll release of each kit. I'll throw the prices above both of these right here. I assume this is a little bit cheaper, can't remember off the top of my head. The Orbital definitely was, so if you could get these grey versions with a limited set of accessories or weapons, that would be really cool. Because when you take a look at the Orbiter right here, it's in the exact same shade of plastic, which means you can mix and match the parts to make your own custom AC without any kind of customization whatsoever. So hopefully we will be seeing more in this shade of grey with limited weapons at a lower price. So finally now onto the articulation and the usual comment on the build. This is rock solid as these kits have been so far. Everything is great. Anyway, as for the articulation, that is a little bit limited. So just getting into the usual pose, I will mention this has the kind of ball joint kind of hips we've been seeing throughout the line so far. The legs don't really bend that much. We've got this little bit of a bend here. It's a nice double bend, which does have a cool piston moving aspect, but there isn't really too much to the overall bend, so there isn't. So, as you can see, whoa! The range of motion at most of the joints in general isn't the craziest, but the sum of all the parts actually adds up quite well. This right here is what we get as the final pose, so it is a little bit more poseable than I thought it would be. They've put a lot of nice design into it, and even though it's not going to be pulling off the most dramatic poses in the world, well, that's kind of what ACs are like. They kind of just fly around in one kind of pose, firing lots of bullets, and that's what it does. And by that's what it does, I mean it doesn't fire any bullets, just kind of does one or two poses. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and another fantastic addition to the 30-minute missions Armored Core lineup. It's rock solid, poses nicely, and it looks fantastic. When it comes to the various different aspects, aesthetically, this looks absolutely amazing. It looks exactly like Milktooth. The only thing it needs, just like the rest of the line, is a little bit of detailing up. If you love battle damaging, dirtying up, detailing, and scratching up kits, these are your best friend. They take to it so perfectly. The foundation is absolutely perfect. I find if you just hit them with a matte top coat and start painting some acrylic paints on top of it, like something like Warhammer paint or something like that, this just works so well. Then give it a bit of a wash, some scratching up and metal scrapes here and there, and it will look absolutely fantastic. The beautiful foundation is here, but out of box can look slightly on the plain side, a little bit. When it comes to the articulation, it's actually got better articulation than I thought it would. You can get a couple of basic poses out of it, and well, in a way, when you bend the knee, it doesn't really look like its leg is bent or not bent because of the design of the legs, but you do get some nice poses out of it. You can even get it crouched, which is pretty cool. When it comes to the accessories, that is where this kit wins. It's got such a ridiculous set of armaments. 2 versions of the massive chainsaw, flamethrower, big shoulder weapons. It's got the craziest loadout I've seen from these AC kits so far, and as far as Bandai kits go, it might be the craziest loadout I have ever seen. Finally then, when it comes to the build of it is very, very nice, easy to put together, fairly simple for the most part, and it's rock solid when finished. Again, highly, highly recommend these kits. I love them to bits. I hope they release a grey one too for customization and for messing around with parts, but I guess we will see. Anyway, I got mine here through Hobby Link Japan, link is down there in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Armored Core reviews, and I'll see you next time. It wouldn't be the end of the video without special thanks to each and every single one of you guys for watching my videos, and special thanks to the channel members and the members over on Patreon, including Caleb, Engelhart, Joe, RG59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.